going, well, what about me?
It's live. I love that every time we get on right before the call, we say something really stupid that makes us both laugh. And it's so great to start these calls with laughter.
Hello. You are on Recovery Talk. This is Timothy Earle and Heidi Love. We are coming to you normally from Hawaii, but Heidi is traveling and her camera or her internet connection or something has frozen. Hopefully she can hear me. We do Recovery Talk every Tuesday there. She's back. We do Recovery Talk every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time until it changes, which will then go back to 6 p.m. because that's just the way it is. And we have all of our previous talks recorded. You can find them at lovecoachacademy.com, and you can watch them from beginning to right now. They tend to flow in a beautiful order. We cover topics in series usually, and Heidi is going to tell us a little bit about herself and the topic we're covering today.
Yeah, welcome. I'm Heidi Love, one of your hosts for Recovery Talk. I'm trying to adjust my camera. So yeah, I'm traveling. I'm with my daughters in Arizona, and last week they were on the call. So if you want to hear what it was like from two young women's point of view to grow up in a family of addiction, I recommend you watch the last week's call. It was really amazing having them there, and people seem to really like it. And it's a raw, unfiltered point of view. And it was really cute because they were both like, oh my God, Mom, how are we going to talk for an hour? And both of them had so much to say. We could have went on for 3 hours easily. It was so fun. Love to have them back. But the time difference is probably not going to allow that to happen. One of them lives in Germany. So today, we're going to talk about why we complain, why we focus on the things we don't want, and how it doesn't help us get what we want, and also the beautiful needs that are underneath that, and how to identify them, and how to start communicating and living into a life that you desire and relationships where you're getting what you want. So I think it's a pretty exciting topic. It's really for anyone. And, well, if you like relationships. If you like to be alone on an island and not be with anybody, you probably don't need to be on the call today. So I'm in a fun mood. I've been out in the desert all day on a Polaris, which is an outdoor recreational vehicle for those of you that don't know. And it's scary, and I screamed, and it's fun, and I didn't have to drive. So we went way faster. If I would have been driving, we'd be going like 4 miles an hour.
So I'm getting pictures of you being like the Martian Explorer satellite, right? Like,
Yeah.
You had someone who was moving you close to 40 or something.
Oh my God, it was just fun, and we barely made it back in time, and I was covered in dirt. I had a unibrow, so I barely showered so that I could be clean for you guys and not stink, because you can smell me, right? So what'd you do today, Timothy?
I have been working, thank you, and I feel really well utilized. I just got off of my last session before the talk, and I'll jump on to another session after the talk. But working with a couple, and when you're in the right place and you're really able to help people because you've been through what they're going through, and you've really learned some great ways of getting out of that without having to struggle so much. And I so respect them. They booked sessions with me right at the beginning of something rather than waiting for it to really fall apart. It was like, they're like, I think we might be getting a flat tire, kind of that soon. So
I love that.
Good on them. Yeah.
I think that's such an important thing to know. A lot of people wait until they're so broken and all the tires are flat, and they're like, shit, we need to replace our tires. And I just want to give a shout out for those of you in relationship that are dealing with family issues or issues with your beloved. Even before you have issues, a lot of the practices and skills that we teach and practice and help with clients are preventative medicine in relationship. And boy, I wish I learned this growing up. I had to learn it all the hard way, and I still tend to learn that way. But although now I have cultivated skills to reach out for help, to learn ahead of time, to take the advice of others that have been there before me, and my life has gotten easier because of that. So I appreciate wisdom of other people now. I don't have to try it all myself. So let's talk about a couple things. I wonder if any of you guys feel very frustrated in relationships. You got an idea of what it was or what you hoped it was, or even what you discussed with the other person or people about what it would like, and it's not like that today. And pain happens there. And some of you may be feeling like in that space of should I stay or should I go? And sometimes when this happens, complaining happens, and we tend to focus on all the things that are missing or all the things that are wrong, and that's what gets communicated.
You're breaking up, Heidi, so much that it's almost like we can understand what you're saying, but we're missing it because you're cutting in and out and your image is frozen. So
you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in, and maybe you try and see if you can log out and log back in again, or see if you need to move somewhere else closer to your Wi-Fi connection. Mm-hmm. One of the things Heidi and I were discussing is that often in our world, we're taught to look for the negative. We're taught to look for what's not working. And we're not really taught to look at the underlying unmet needs that are underneath that. And when we do learn to do that, we go, God, this isn't working. I don't like this way. If we stop, and rather than look externally, we look inward, deeper into what need isn't being met. Oh, wow, I have a need for consistency. The relationship I'm in currently, the way it's working is that my partner is kind of bipolar, right? One day they're happy, the next day they're gone, the third day they're mad at me, and I'm walking on eggshells because I never know how I should be behaving in this relationship. Well, you get a coach, get a therapist, hopefully you work on it. But let's say it doesn't change. You want to look deep and go, I've got a need for consistency. It's a primary need, really important. Now that need moved up to a notch. And then that's where I think not only our therapists, but our close friends, other people, if we lean into them and really seek their support, we don't do it alone. We don't do it in a codependent way. We do it in an interdependent way, meaning we love and value all of our relations. Then often when we ask, our close allies will tell us, yeah, I don't think she's going to be able to do that, Timothy. I think she's just going, that's kind of how I've always known her. She does that. And I know you've been working on it for a long time. Maybe you need to move out of that relationship and really be with someone who actually can be consistent and has some of the other values and qualities that you need. But notice that's a very different way than me trying to change and fix, and I'm seeing this person as wrong. There may be nothing wrong with them and how they live and their mood swings, and someone else might be totally happy and okay with that same range. And I'm just making this up, and yet I might, or this person, this man in this scenario, might not want that. And so really taking our complaints, you need to change this, and backing off, slowing down, and really seeking what need is not met. Because when we can articulate to that to our partner, often all of a sudden in this scenario that I made up, the female in this relationship with me says, oh, I get it. If you are met in consistency, and I can kind of bring my moods into a smaller bandwidth, then you're going to be closer to me. And that's a huge need I have, is to be close to you. Great. Now, all of a sudden, we're actually doing the work to come together. And I think in Heidi's description today, connection is the antithesis to addiction. So for someone like me, as I get more and more connected and feel seen and heard, and there's consistency, I tend to feel more stable, more healthy, more sober, and my addictive tendencies or my compulsive behaviors don't have as much power. Okay.
Yeah.
She's back.
Okay. Is it clear now? Okay, good. So I want to let you guys know that we are live on Facebook, and you can comment and we can comment back to you. So you can ask questions, you can make comments. We want to know that you're here with us. Let us know you're on. And I will be typing to you and looking at the comments. It's right here on my screen too. So if I seem distracted, I'm not. I'm just reading what you're writing, and we can communicate with you that way. So I love this topic because it seems to be really common. It's been common in my own life. It's been a behavior that I go to and I have to come out of. And, it's back and forth. It's not been a consistent recovery in that regard of like never doing it again. Because our brains are wired for survival. And in the conscious world we live in relationships, our brains really don't serve us the way they used to. I mean, they were set up so that you had fear, so that you avoided pain in the future. And so how does that translate into relationship? It's like, oh, I've been hurt. Oh, red flag. Let me run. And then you're not getting the result of connection that you want, because maybe you're having fight or flight even when it's not needed. Maybe you're in freeze even when there's no threat apparent. It's just the perceived threat that happens that makes us act in a way. And so let's say we're in a relationship, we've been pretty happy, but there seems to be things that are happening that are, and maybe we can give some concrete examples. Like I have a need to be included. I really love to be included. That makes me feel safe and happy and important. And when I'm not included, I have all these childhood stories, that get triggered, that I have to be a certain way to be included or to be loved, so we have some of these beliefs that can go on. So as I'm talking, I want you guys to think if you can identify or think of something where you get triggered often in relationship. And so there's things in my life where people make me feel included. It's not on purpose. It's their natural state of being, but that meets my need for being included. Like I have a girlfriend in the Bay who's a dear friend of mine. She's been on here sometimes, and I feel so included in her life. Whatever she has going on, she lets me know. She wants my feedback with things. She confides in me. Sometimes I hold space for her. Sometimes she wants to hear all my ideas about something. I just feel very included. I know that if anything ever happened and I needed to go just be with her, I could. She knows that if she needed to come be with me, she could just be in my home, mi casa, su casa. And there's such a feeling of inclusion in that. And so she just naturally meets it. And then there's other people in my life that are very private, or maybe they don't run things by me, or they don't want my feedback or input. That's also a need for contribution. I love to contribute. That's why I'm on this call tonight. I have a high need to contribute. And if some people that are really close to me don't want my contribution, I don't feel included, and it's not good or bad. It's not bad if someone doesn't want
what does it trigger in you when you don't feel included?
Especially in my close relationships. I mean, I would have to say with like semi-friends or people that are out on the periphery, it's not such a big deal. But with my close friends, my kids, my partner, my close friends, what it brings up for me when I don't feel included, I feel sad. I feel alone. I feel almost stunted. And I don't know what the feeling word is for that, but like stifled, where I can't give my passion or my creativity, or input. So I don't know. Do you know a feeling word for that, where you feel kind of stunted or?
To me, it's kind of like stuck. But again, I don't think that's a feeling. These are more states, right?
Yeah.
Stunted, stuck. But I know what you're talking about. If we were to move into the sensations of it, it's almost being frozen, or hopeless would be a feeling that can kind of come up. Like, for me, when I'm in that state where I don't feel included, I often feel weak, and unseen's not a feeling, but I feel weak and I feel helpless, and it brings up times in my life where I was deeply insecure about, do I fit in, and the story starts, right? And then my mind starts taking it like, well, they don't really love me. I don't really fit in here. I don't have anything to contribute if I don't watch it and just really recognize what's being triggered, that I have a need to be included. And worse, when I'm in that situation, sometimes I've tried to push myself into the situation and like assert myself, and that can often backfire on me, where then I feel even more excluded because people don't listen to me. They skip right over what I said.
I want to read some comments. Hi, Scott. We're so glad you're on. He said, love and respect you too so much. There's one word I don't even know how to pronounce. Flummoxed. Flummoxed.
Flummoxed.
I gotta look that one
Leave
up.
it to Scott to find a feeling sensation word for stunted. Flummoxed.
I love it. So, and also discombobulated or paralyzed, and I can definitely relate to those.
Yeah, I was trying to get to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Feeling empathy, man. Yay. So another example.
What do you do though? Okay, so you've got a need to be included. It's not being met by the people who are close to you, because then it triggers. If it's just a store clerk, it doesn't trigger you.
Yeah,
So then it triggers these feelings of flummoxed and sad. And now what?
So now I would reach out normally. So the past me wouldn't say anything. I would beat myself up about it. Like, I'm not supposed to feel that way. Maybe I'm not supposed to need that. Maybe that's my shit, and I would keep it all to myself, and it would hurt me and hurt the relationship. And so fast forward now, I speak up and I share that I'm feeling unincluded, or that this is where we get into what we're talking about. So I can complain, or I can ask for what I need. So if I was like,
and first step, even you're coming into the nuance of it, right? You could go, hey guys, why doesn't anybody listen to me? Or you could get up and walk out and slam the door. Or, you could do anything to signify I'm upset.
Pout,
right?
silent treatment.
But what you're talking about is moving towards, before even stating your need, just vulnerability, just sharing what's going on with you.
Yeah, and before we go there, I want to talk about kind of the crux of the talk. So I might be silent for a period of time and let that story and those feelings and that pain perpetuate. I'm not included. Look how they're not including me now. And look at this they're doing that's not including me. And I must really not be a priority in their life. And the story goes on if we don't talk about it and we don't get vulnerable. So then it might look like, instead of going in vulnerability and saying how I feel and asking for what I need, it might come out like, well, you never asked me if I want to swim when we go to the beach.
Well, that's because I know that, every time we go to the beach, that's what you want to do. And what I want to do is play with the racket and the ball. So I just didn't even bring it up. I'm making stuff up here because you're frozen again. If I make up a different example, because I don't really know exactly where Heidi was going. Let's see if I can stick with that one. She's upset. She's not feeling included. We aren't going to the beach. We're not swimming. She's asked. I'm not listening to her. And she's not feeling included. The whole conversation with the two other people involved, we're just moving ahead and we're going towards doing some other activity. And we're not really even including or asking her. So she comes up with a victim statement, like the one that she just said, which is that, we're not listening to her. We're not taking into consideration that she wants to go to the beach and she wants to swim. And so in that moment, most of us are going to go, what? Or get defensive or come to her rescue. Whereas if she can take the time, like she said earlier, to look at the story she's telling, nobody cares about me. Nobody wants to know what I want to do. They never even ask, and they all know I want to go to the beach and want to swim, and they're making other plans. These are stories. If she can actually enter the conversation when she's ready, after she's maybe given herself a healthy dose of self-empathy, where she's really taking care of her own heart, kind of riffing off of the example, and I probably completely changed it from what you were saying earlier, but if she can take care of her own heart, soothe herself, and come in it empowered, then she can say, hey, when you guys get a chance, can I share something? I'd like to just share what's going on with me right now in this conversation. And most people, when you do that, are going to stop, be curious, and go, yeah, what is it, Heidi? What's going on? And that's her opportunity, once she has that opening, to then say, I know you don't mean it, but I'm feeling a little left out. No one's really asked me what I would like to do this afternoon. And then hopefully, because this is an empowered place, people are like, oh, you're right. We've all been talking about what we want to do. What would you like to do today? And then Heidi gets to throw in, I'd like to go to the beach and I'd like to swim. And all of a sudden she's moving back towards being included. So she's taking responsibility for her own unmet need, her own story, her own feelings. And then she's choosing to powerfully move into vulnerability and represent and ask for what she needs, what she wants. I don't know if you're back. I don't think you are. You're kind of frozen. No, you're in jitterbug zone.
Can you hear me?
We can, but it sounds like you're on Mars and the satellites aren't bouncing things right.
Darn, it's so strange. It says that I have full bars. I wonder if I should try to move somewhere else.
Let me see if it's my end. 1 second. Let's try this.
In the chat box, are you able to hear me clear, or is it Timothy? Hear you clear in the chat box.
No, we can't hear you. And I switched to my other thing from my end. Thank you for bearing with us, everyone. And what does Scott say? Maybe he can hear you. Maybe it's just me that can't. Best if she turns her video off and just goes with audio. Try that. That's thank you, Scott. Great suggestion. It's on Heidi's end. Try turning your camera off and let's see if your sound goes up.
I'm going to try it. So can you hear me now?
Your camera's still on. Oh, okay, now it's off. Now try talking.
Can you hear me now?
You're still skipping. Just speak a little more. Let's see what happens.
Okay, I'm going to try to go in a different space then.
Okay. I'm going to keep going and then I'll clue you in when you get back.
Sorry.
Yeah. Give it a try. What did I just do there? Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
No. You're still skipping around a little.
I'm so sad. So let's think of one thing. Can you guys hear me?
Try taking your video out again.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yeah,
okay.
I think that's
While
better.
We're trying to figure this out, I want everyone.
We got you now, Heidi. We can hear you. So you go. You are a white dot, kind of bouncing as you talk.
Okay. So I would love to hear in the chat box one complaint you have about a relationship. And let's look at those and let's look at what are the needs underneath them. So what's one, while they're typing in the chat box, Timothy, what's one complaint you have about a current relationship?
Let's see. Where do I want to go? I have a relationship that we've just agreed to start over. And what was happening was we were getting together on this person's terms for whenever they wanted. They expected full flexibility from me. And then we would get together and we would kind of have like a co-counseling moment. But we never really said that it was therapy or going to be co-counseling. Sometimes we'd cuddle, sometimes we'd just check in. We practiced active listening, but they were the one kind of driving everything. I just met them where they wanted to be met. And at one point they finally vulnerably and assertively shared that they felt like their therapeutic needs weren't being met in the relationship. We're losing you again, Heidi. And in that moment, I realized I didn't believe we were in a therapeutic relationship. I thought we were more of in a friendship and with support. And I realized that it just wasn't in my flow. It wasn't working for me. I was feeling like I wasn't meeting them the way they wanted to be met. And I didn't even really know how to do that or what that was. And so I let this person know, why don't we go ahead and just release the relationship when we are together? By coincidence, we'll just see what's in the field and what's actually there, and we'll see if we can't rebuild a new relationship. We're still friends, and we have a lot of overlapping community, but that was how we decided to deal with it. And I guess my complaint or my need, if I go deeper, was just I needed to feel met. She was expressing that she needed to feel met, and we weren't able to do it. And rather than try and work hard at it, since it was just a friendship, we really both agreed, and so far, just to release it and let it go. And we'll see. I'll tell you in the future if I remember how that's working with this particular person. And I think that's what Heidi was headed towards. Is it, if we look at a complaint, someone has posted being ghosted by an ex, and I think that's a common one with a lot of people who move on from a relationship. One of the two or both will kind of just, I don't even want to deal with you anymore. And rather than repair, not meaning get back together, but repair, keep the relationship at least friendly and going, and really mine it for all of the jewels that are there on each side to grow and to prosper and get the most out of whatever time they had together and that transition. One or both people will kind of ghost each other, forget about each other. If it's only one, then it really hurts this person over here, because they're still wanting closure, they're wanting repair, they're wanting to get the most out of it, or possibly at least have a sense of feeling respected and seen and valued. And that if they're being ghosted, that, well, were they ever of any value? And all these stories can start to be created. And so, one of the things that I've been working on, because I've not been this person before, is that the masters of relationship, a great coach named Philip Lewis, who some of you may know, he shared with me once, and I think he got it from someone else, that a master of a relationship is a master of repair. Because we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to hurt ourselves and other people. And our ability to take responsibility for it and stay open, not ghost anyone, we can still have boundaries, really allows for repair to occur. And then we become masters of relationship. People who are really, really good at this, when they talk about their past relationships, they're friends with everybody. They really don't have an enemy or someone who hates them. And mine's a mixed bag, probably heavier on the part of people who are upset with me, and I'll take responsibility for that. They are correct in their assessment of who I was and how I used to operate. And I'm doing a much better job, still working and practicing at identifying my needs, communicating them openly and honestly, clearly, and repeating that process, and practicing what I call like a consensual wheel, where I'm always checking in with my friends and my loved ones to make sure that as I grow and change, our boundaries, our communication styles, everything is staying up to speed or up to date, if you will. So we're not getting into a zone where they're starting to project or believe that I'm somebody who I never said I was, and I'm not saying that I'm someone I'm not. I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not in order to have them love me. That kind of codependent way of being with each other. Any other complaints that anyone in the chat room has in a relationship that they're in right now. A common one I hear is that my friends don't reach out to me, that I'm always the one reaching out to them. And one of the stories that sometimes people tell is that my friends don't care about me as much as I care about them. And again, sometimes friends don't even know that you would like for them to reach out and call you more. And so it's important to just express that you have a need for reciprocity, for mutual exchange. You aren't always, that your story or what you tell yourself is that you're reaching out to others, to your friends, to your family members, more than they actually reach out to you. And then again, owning it, what you tell yourself, I tell myself that you don't care. And that allows them to say, that's not true. I really do care. That's a story you're telling yourself. And thank you for letting me know. I will try to reach out to you more. Or they say, that's just how I am. I don't really reach out to anybody. I just kind of go with the flow of my life. And I love it when you reach out. That's why I pick up the phone, or that's why I call you back. And then notice all the stories start to come down. We've expressed our need vulnerably with those we love, and we're starting to come into connection. And it doesn't require that somebody do something. This is what the mind is often saying is, I need people to call me back. Well, by doing the process I just talked about, often we get to a place where we realize, and I have a very dear friend like this, who needs a lot of freedom. I only get to see him when it's in his flow. And I've expressed that, I'd like to see him more or this or that. But in truth, as we talked about our love for each other and really established that, I came to the understanding and the agreement to his way of being that when we get time together is when we get time together. And it's so valuable to me and it's so appreciated that I don't really want him to become something that he's not, and artificially schedule time with me and be with me when he's really not wanting to be there. I'd rather it be juicy and alive like it is when we just get together because it's in our flow. And so we've come to a way of dancing with each other, and we've been good friends now since 2010. So let's see, someone just posted something. Yeah, this is so true. We have someone who posted, people can only meet you as deeply as they meet themselves. And I'm just feeling that because I spent so much of my life not being able to meet myself at the depths of some of my shadow. And it was unbeknownst to me too. And so I was thinking I was relating to people in an open, honest way. And I wasn't being really open and honest with all parts of me. And so it was creating distortions in the field. I was hurting myself and hurting others. So absolutely right that people can only meet as deeply as they meet themselves. Can we hear you, Heidi?
Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yeah. And one of our people who put in the chat box, I think that if you have very good communication skills, the relationship can be easy for people. And I would agree that the better you are at communicating and being vulnerable about what you're experiencing or what's going on in your life, your part of the relationship, then there's a greater chance that the communication level is going to work. But it is a duo or 3 or 4 or 5 or organizations of 150 and more. And so it does require everyone speaking a certain language together and being able to communicate with each other at a high level. If you've got someone who's just learning to play tennis and someone else who has played tennis professionally, there's a huge discrepancy in the skill with tennis. And communication is actually no different, because we're really talking not just about what words mean, how we hear them, what they mean to each other, but also the underlying emotions, the underlying unmet needs, the patterns that we get into that we're not even aware of sometimes, that kind of cloud what we're hearing. And so communication skills are definitely something I think we need more of in this world and at an earlier age. Heidi, can we hear you?
Oh my gosh. You're doing so good, Timothy. You're awesome talking all by yourself.
Doing my best, and we can hear you really well now.
Okay. All by yourself. You don't want to be all by yourself.
You might as well freeze. You're so beautiful and your voice sounds good, but you might as well freeze your image because we can hear you, but your image is not keeping up to speed.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I'd rather see you than not, but I'd rather hear you above all else.
Okay, thanks. Oh, darn. I thought I had it back on all the way, but it's still bad.
The voice is back on all the way. Just turn the camera off.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. You'll have a blank black screen. Is that better?
Yes, it's much better. We can hear you. And I just want to say that thank you for being so active in the chat box. And someone was just really agreeing with what I said to their response. So thank you for just the confirmation that we're on the same page together. And another person just posted, "Wow, beautiful." So
yeah,
I'm glad that Heidi put together the talk and alone, but with people in the chat room, we are moving through it and we can hear you now. So what else would you like to add? And I think even if it's something I've already said, it'll be great.
Oh yeah, I might repeat things, but I see in the chat box about communication, and communication is key. You know, when we were talking about complaining, and when we go to our partners with complaint after complaint after complaint, especially if they don't understand what we're needing, because oftentimes we don't know what we need. We just know what we don't like. And that's what I was talking about when I posted today, that when we can identify the contrast, when we know what we don't like, it can actually be a gift. If we live in it and that's all we talk about, it's not a gift. It's a complaint, and our partners give up eventually. I mean, that's what I see with couples. Somebody will just give up trying to meet the other one's needs because needs aren't being talked about. The problems are being talked about. And then we aren't thinking of the positive things, or the whole, what I like to call the whole person perspective, where we have all these things that aren't working, but we have all these things that are working, and we're not focused on the things that are working because we're focused on the lack, and lack perpetuates lack. And complaining doesn't get your needs met. So I would love for each of you to find one complaint that you have and think of the need underneath it. You know, I'm going to use politics as an example. We're not going to get into a political discussion, but I think it's a great one because people have so much around it. So if you're
Heidi, we're back to Lost in Space, but it's a little better. What I am capturing is just kind of a request for people to identify a complaint they have, and then to look deeper at what's the unmet need underneath that complaint. And the suggestion, I believe, is that way we can actually communicate the need with our partner, and then we can create connection. Even if that partner says, "I can't meet that need," at least that's what we're talking about, rather than arguing over the spilled milk or that they're late 15 minutes every day after work. And you can try talking again. We'll see if I can hear you.
I'm going to try to get on my phone. Maybe there's something going on in my computer.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If you do, then maybe we'll be able to wrap it up a little early today. And I'm going to think about what I want to say next while you're figuring that out. Yeah, someone just posted that they sometimes feel like they are too needy, and that they like to help others, but that they really need to work on themselves, heal themselves. And I find this when I'm working with couples, that the person who identifies as a woman, if it's a mixed gender couple, or if it's two women. I don't really, actually, I can find this, let's take gender out of it. I find this dynamic often in relationship where one person is taking care of the other, and the other doesn't even necessarily need them to. And a good example would be the mom who's been taking care of the relationship, the children, the dog, the house, everything. They've been overextending and they haven't really been getting their own needs met. And so then often it starts to look like a rebellion on their part, or they push everybody away and they're becoming distant because they're not actually doing their own work and taking care of themselves. And they're seeing everyone around them as needy and they've forgotten their own needs. A little different than what the caller said, but it's a common complaint. Looks like nobody cares about me and everybody's just taking advantage of me. Why don't you do the dishes? Why don't you do your own laundry? These kind of things. And it really, that external world doesn't shift until the person says, you know what, everybody, announcement, sits everybody down. I am no longer your maid. I am not cooking anymore. I'm not doing these things anymore. I'm focusing on me. It looks like this. I'm going to meditation retreats. I'm doing yoga. I'm reading these books. I'm in a book club. I'm going to hang out with my friends. You kids are old enough to do your own meals. I'm only cooking 2 a week. And you kind of like are taking back your own sovereignty, your own power, and doing your own work. And I appreciate what this caller was saying is like, you know, and a lot of people operate this way, that before I can meet someone, like one of the callers said earlier, before I can meet someone to the depth that I really want, I've got to be able to meet myself at that depth. And so what I hear in this one person who just posted is that they're clear, they're aware that they've got work to do on themselves, and that to get distracted trying to take care of other people right now or meet other people's needs is probably not best for them. And Heidi, we see you frozen. I don't know if we can hear you.
Can you hear?
It's still skipping.
Oh, we tried. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you better. One of our callers said that she really liked that TV show when she was a kid too. Used to watch it with her brother when you were singing earlier. And I don't know if you could hear that, Heidi.
I can hear you the whole time and I can see myself and it's not frozen. So it's very weird. I'm so sorry, Timothy. I don't know what is going on. I've been working online where I'm at, so I don't know what's going on with the internet. It shouldn't be having a problem.
We're hearing you pretty good right now.
Okay, good. I feel bad. I want to apologize.
What would be your one or two top recommendations when people are, and you see this when you're working with couples a lot, or even in family systems, where the mom is just ragging on her son who's 15 years old again. He already tells himself he's a loser, and the mom's like, you don't get up on time and you never brush your hair, and if I weren't here to help you brush your teeth, the dentist bill would be fine, you know, and you cost us, and we're having to pay this therapist to come in, you know, that kind of thing. Like, and people do this in relationship. They're just focusing on the negative. What would your main advice be to those people who are kind of stuck in a rut, right? They're not seeing the value or the true person, the actual 15-year-old who's still there underneath the behavior. What would you say to her or to people in relationship?
Are you able to hear me?
I'm able to hear you, and we see you okay.
Okay. So I would talk to the mom and help her unpack what's going on for her. So what are the stories that are underneath why she's mad? Because there's always a reason why you're upset with someone else's behavior, and it's feelings and needs and stories triggered. So I would look at what is the need not being met, and I would ask her, are you embarrassed? Are you afraid of, you know, what other people think about your child? Are you afraid if they don't get to school, you're going to think that
that you're not a good mom. So there may be a need to be seen as a good parent. And however the child's behaving is not allowing that need to be like, I'm a good parent being reflected. So that could be one thing. So I would first help her look at what is the need that's not being met by the child. Maybe it's time efficiency. Maybe it's appreciation. She doesn't feel appreciated for all the things she does because he's not behaving or she's not behaving in a way that reflects appreciation to the mom. So after unpacking that, let's say it's two things. One, she wants to be seen as a good parent. Two, she wants to be appreciated by the child for all the things she sacrifices and gives and shows up for. So instead of going to the child and saying, guilting and manipulating by saying, I do all these things for you and you need to get out of bed on time and you're not going to get to graduate, and what are you going to do with your life, or whatever the negative complaining is, that she would go to him and say, we've been going around in this misery go around and we've talked about it a million times and it hasn't worked. And what I've identified is that I want to be seen as a good mom. And sometimes when you don't show up to school on time, I'm embarrassed that people are going to think I'm a horrible mother. And I'm also in fear of the repercussions for you. Like, what are you going to go through as a result of these things? And the other thing that I noticed about myself is that I really need appreciation. I do a lot for you and the family, and I give a lot, and I want to. It's from my heart. And I just sometimes don't feel appreciated. And I realize that you not getting out of bed has nothing to do with me. But I want to understand what's going on for you. And so I wanted to share what was going on for me, and let's check in with you. Like, what is going on with you? Like, do you think I'm a bad mom? Do you appreciate everything I
do? Yeah. Now we've moved from the bad mom spiral, the first layer, right? Which is like blaming the kid. And if the kid just changes, then I'm a good mom, to, oh, please validate that I'm not a bad mom. Yeah. But just real quick, so people who jumped in during this, Heidi was just doing a role play. She's not talking as herself as a mom. She's being the mom that I kind of created. And she's also beautifully coaching that mom to basically come into their own story, their own feelings, their own unmet need. And what are they really looking for? In a way, they're probably looking to let go of the responsibility that what their 15-year-old does or doesn't do is a reflection on them, right? And up until that point, yeah, maybe they did some things when that child was little that are causing them to be this way. But it's never too late to really release our responsibility. I can't make anyone do something. Only that 15-year-old can. And so the process Heidi's talking about is like first getting the mother to back off, look inward, identify their own story, their own emotions, and really meet themselves, give themselves empathy. And so the request for, I'd like some appreciation. I do a lot for you. Doesn't mean you have to give it to me. And if you don't give it to me, I'm taking your iPhone away. It just means I really like it. And hopefully their son, if there's a little bit of frontal lobe activity there, could say, well, I do. I really appreciate, Mom, that you do all my laundry and cook me meals and drive me to school and back and go and get me a burrito on Friday nights when I'm a little grumpy.
This also goes into the topic of like love languages, because to her, the child getting out of bed on time and making things easy and getting to school on time means she's appreciated. May or may not mean that to somebody else. Words of affirmation might mean appreciation. So it's also important for the mom to say, I correlated you getting to school on time and getting up by yourself with me being appreciated. And I'm sure there's other ways I can be appreciated, and kind of unpacking that between the parent and the child, because the actions that we need to receive that mean something to us, we need to communicate to the other people in our lives, because they might think, well, I appreciate you all the time. I tell you thank you all the time. I take out the trash. I get home for dinner.
Well, or the common one from the 15-year-old son is, well, I mean, I love you. I'm grateful for all that. Why do I have to say it every time? Right.
Yeah.
But
or
usually
you
in
don't
this,
appreciate me.
yeah, or then the defensive response, and you're always on me nagging, and then the boy moves back into his story. And so if either person in the relationship can identify what's bothering them and then put a mirror up and look inward and identify what the unmet need is, and then come from that place, usually connection begins to happen. And usually even the 15-year-old son, if there's any leverage at all on the parent's part, goes, Mom, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to have a successful life. I'll figure it out. Whether I'm to school on time or not does not mean I'm going to be a loser. I'd like you to let go of that story. It's my responsibility to get to school on time. And if I don't wake up and if I don't get up, then don't drive me and I'll figure it out. Very difficult for a mom who's been really engaged, or dad, and is kind of in a codependent relationship, to let go at that level. And I'm not saying you should. So please there's a lot of nuances in relationships and family dynamics. So don't take what I just said and go, oh, that's what I'm going to do with Johnny tomorrow. Because Johnny may not be capable. Yeah, he may not be capable of getting himself to school, even though he says he can. So
yeah, and we're giving light examples. And I'm sad that I wasn't in the call, because one of the things I really wanted to cover was, what do we do when we have identified our needs, when we're in a relationship where we've talked to the person in our best ability of what we needed in relationship, and they're unable to meet it, and we've continued to make them wrong. And I want to share this. It happens because if we really accept that they can't or won't, they're unwilling or incapable of meeting those precious needs that you're really wanting and needing in relationship, it's easier to keep blaming and keep trying to coerce them to change or meet the need or complain, rather than face the grief of leaving the relationship. And I see couples get stuck here. I've been stuck there, and it's painful. It's painful to accept that, wow, this person isn't capable or isn't willing. I like to use those two things. We always think people are capable. We don't know if they are. And maybe they're just not willing. And it's so having that acceptance. And again, there's a bandwidth of time, because miscommunication happens. I'm not telling you to leave a relationship if you feel frustrated and you've told them 50 times you need your needs met and they're not meeting them. There's an appropriate amount of work that can go in and tools that can be used. And if both people are willing, that gap can be bridged. But if it comes to a time where you just fundamentally know, and it's clear communication, like, I cannot meet that for you. And for you, it's like not having breath, and you'll die without it in the relationship, or you'll be starved or lonely or whatever the feeling is, then it may be time to accept that that person's not bad or wrong, but they're bad or wrong for you. And that's a really tough place to get to. It's one that none of us none of us want to accept, especially if we really love the person. And it is my belief that if both people want to, so many things can be bridged, but it does take both people wanting to.
Well, and the scenario you're giving too, a lot of people do have a fear of abandonment. And so if you're in a relationship like that, it's really not even the other person's fault. Sometimes you're incapable of doing what you know is right because you're so afraid of being alone or feeling like you got left, even though it's two people mutually agreeing to disengage and become friends or recalibrate the relationship. The childhood trauma or the fear that's in there is, I'm being left, I'm being abandoned. And so it becomes difficult to do what's right and to disengage. And again, I think coaching and counseling can help people kind of glean those jewels, if you will. We talked about it earlier when one of the callers talked about they felt ghosted by their ex. And that really doesn't allow both people to unpack everything from their relationship and get all the beautiful lessons that are there and that are available. And so again, getting a coach or getting a therapist can really help disentangle a relationship that you know needs to end, and help do it. The term on the street is conscious separation, but to help do it where we're actually learning and growing as we do.
Yeah, I'm going to read a couple of the comments. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I believe that we are never upset for the reason we think we are. So true. I mean, usually we really have to get still and think of what's underneath. Nailed it, Heidi. Thank you. An excellent point. In my country, the first time of the relationship usually talk about political things. We have a very bad problem about politics. That's the example that I was going to bring up a minute ago when I disappeared again. um, was that, and I've counseled with people because there's a lot of families in divide. I was with a couple the other day that I met with in person, and they are very divided over politics. And it's super painful because they are on opposite ends of the spectrum. And what I shared with them is what I'm going to share with you, that when someone is upset about a problem, like let's say whatever president got elected, you're sad that the other president didn't get elected. I would ask you to look at, what do you think would have been met if they had? Your need for safety, your need for your values being met, what are the needs that would have been met had that strategy, because everything is a strategy, happened for you? And it's no different than in relationship. And so if you can look at the needs underneath that are unmet because of the problem. So again, we're talking about the contrast in relationship. If you're experiencing the pain and the thing you don't want, look at, if you had what you wanted, what positive thing would be met? So think about that. What positive thing would be met if I had what I wanted? Those are the things you're missing. And those are the things that you need to start taking daily action to change.
I think that's a good place to maybe wrap it up.
All right. So I want to let you know that Timothy and I both do intake sessions. They're 20 to 30 minutes and it's free to you. And we do that so that we can get to know you and see if we are a fit for you and you're a fit for us. And we encourage you to reach out. You can go to my website and look at my phone number. You can also Timothy's. I can't scroll it. I don't know if you can, but say your website. So mine is HeidiLove.com. You can also reach either of us at Love Coach Academy, also on Facebook. So reach out to us, set up a time, and let's talk. Let's see where you're at and where you want to go and if we're fit. And we'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for being on. And I apologize for all the technical difficulties. This was such an important topic close to my heart. I'm really bummed that it didn't go smoothly, and maybe we'll do it again further down the road. I won't be with you next week. I'll be flying back home to Hawaii. So Timothy is going to be on and probably have a special guest for you. So join him and show support next Tuesday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And we're here every week. And again, thanks for being with us.